You're watching Morning at NTV.
A very good morning. I'm glad you're still with us, and welcome to our Kickstarter discussion. We are going to tackle the situation at the South Sudan border with Uganda, and my guest this morning is Ambassador Simon Joat Deng, who is the envoy here in Uganda for Juba. As we came on air, there was a discussion that was pertaining to the reference to a person who stays in the south of South Sudan. How are we supposed to refer to that particular region? Anyway, let me throw that to the ambassador before we tackle the issue of violence. South Sudan, ever since it came into force as a nation, which is of course making it the newest country in the world, there's been a bit of confusion here and there, to the extent that even the flag also, apparently there are issues with it. Explain to us what's happening, but who do we call a person who stays in the south of South Sudan?
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to the viewers. Probably I will go back to the history a little bit. You know, South Sudan became independent in 2011 from the Republic of Sudan. And prior to that, when we were in one union with the Sudan, the people who constitute the current South Sudan were called Southern Sudanese. And then everybody else was Sudanese, but people south of Khartoum back then, they were Southern Sudanese. And that terminology has stuck with a lot of people. They have not gone away from it. So up to today, you would find the people from the Republic of South Sudan, some people choose to call them Southern Sudanese. They are not Southern Sudanese, they are South Sudanese. Just like the way you have now, there is Southern Africa, which is the whole of most of the countries south of the equator. But then you have the Republic of South Africa. And you cannot call somebody from the Republic of South Africa Southern Africa. It means you are referring to a broader group. So now the term Southern Sudanese refer to people who are in Sudan, but south of Khartoum, but not South Sudanese. So that's a bit of explanation. All South Sudanese are now officially identified as South Sudanese, but not Southern Sudanese.
All right. And then what is this confusion about the flag?
There is also confusion because most of people didn't go away from the old Sudanese flag. This is the correct South Sudanese flag.
The star is yellow.
Yes.
It has a blue triangle.
A blue triangle, sky blue triangle.
Sky blue, rather. Green, red, black.
Green. Yeah, so you start from black, that's representative of the people, and then the white stripe, the red, and another white, and green for our agriculture. And the sky blue is we are more agriculture, we have a lot of water, and of course, the bright star. So this is the correct flag of South Sudan that I would want people really to take note of, rather than you find people who say they're talking about South Sudan, but they don't put a different flag.
Emblazoning the flag of Sudan.
Yes,
interesting there. Thank you for that clarification. Now we come on this discussion on the backdrop of a flare-up of tensions on the border. For us, we are concerned, especially for our citizens at Elegu and the business community that is responsible for the transportation of billions worth of goods into South Sudan, about security. What is the latest in terms of what we are hearing? An attack on Nimule town, which is just across the border from Elegu, that is in Amoru. It has caused a bit of concern as residents there are saying the security situation could deteriorate. If you have the latest information, what is being done to ensure that order returns?
First thing, Chris, that is what former U.S. President would call is a fake news. There's never been an attack, and our intelligence doesn't show there is any even plan. So how this thing made news is to our surprise, because there's never been attack, and even the group that claimed to have carried out the attack doesn't exist. But somehow, because of the social media, I think somebody picked it up and they ran with the story. But that thing is a propaganda, and it is its sole intention is to harm the trade and business relations between between South Sudan, not only Uganda, but with all the most of East African countries, because the business people would have been in panic to say, like, what's happening, the road is not safe, but that thing never happened. So it is something we strongly condemn, and whoever who was behind that or facilitated that, the government of the Republic of South Sudan will bring them to book.
Okay, that points to the fact that there could be some porous nature, especially when it comes on to the ability of the forces in South Sudan to be on the ground. Because at the end of the day, security concerns are valid. And given the history of this particular part of Africa, what is the state of affairs in regard to the many militia groups that might not be well under control by the army?
Look, we are currently implementing what we call revitalized peace agreement that was signed in 2018, where most of the armed opposition groups are currently part of the government. But there is only one group that is not yet a signatory, but we are also engaging them through what we call ROM process to bring them to the table and see if the grievances can be addressed where possible. Yes, but also in addition to that, you have some criminal groups that are active on this porous border. Sometimes they hijack cars, sometimes in the previous years, but now this thing has not been there. So it is something of concern, not only to South Sudan, but to the region. You know, last week, Uganda also suffered the same thing with the ADF in Kasese region. So it's the same things that Uganda is facing with ADF are the same things we are facing with some groups here. But it's something we are working together to address, to ensure that the peace and tranquility returns.
Let's refer to a statement that was released by the Joint Command Council, that is the JCC, and the office of the spokesperson here. We have, it's on the 15th of October, and it says, any vehicle traveling Nimle Road, big or small, marked or unmarked, will be considered a camouflaged carrier of military cargo. For President Key and Riek Machar military, violators of the main supporters of President Key and Machar are responsible for the suffering of the people of South Sudan. And civilians across South Sudan are advised to purchase enough food, as Nimle Road will be closed until the government of South Sudan agrees to pay each private soldier in armed forces a salary of $200 per month. On the other hand, it should be, the government must immediately stop the discriminative and brutal disarmament against innocent people of Mundari tribe. The government forces attack on civilians in Pachola must urgently come to an end. What we have here is an accusation that some attacks have been conducted against the Mundari tribe. I do not know whether this is something that is orchestrated by Juba, or it's an accusation by wayward individuals.
First of all, that's why I said the group doesn't exist. That's the baseline. So, and the things they lump together are different things. For example, 3 weeks ago, some armed youth attacked a military garrison in Pochala, east of, in the eastern part of the country.
That's right.
And the security forces had to bring these people into control. That's one thing. What they're talking of disarmament. Uganda, for example, you've had this in Karamoja. The UPDF goes there to do disarmament, but it's not called a tribal disarmament. If you have a group of people who are causing insecurity, the government has the legitimate right to ensure there is peace and order. So there is nothing tribal there. It's just about law enforcement, and it remains as such. So this particular group is non-existent, and basically the aim is to cause fear. Like, for example, they are talking of a soldier being paid a certain amount of dollars. South Sudan has its own currency, South Sudanese dollar. If these people are South Sudanese,
maybe the reference was South Sudanese.
Yes, pounds. So if they are South Sudanese, they should be referring to South Sudanese pound, and that shows you probably these are somebody behind a computer somewhere in Uganda or somewhere else in diaspora, but we will surely find out who they are, and they will have to be answerable to this.
Okay, all right. That, of course, talks when you make reference and comparison to what's happening in the west of Uganda in light of the incursions that are made by the ADF.
Yes.
Then that means that rebel activity is still very rampant in some parts of South Sudan, and it is you require to efforts to get hold of that particular region and ensure it's secure are ongoing. But couldn't aspects like pay of soldiers who have been incorporated into the greater army be one of the issues that could be causing those uprisings?
I think maybe I'll tell you what is causing some of this. For a long time, some individuals have found out for you to grow career-wise, like to have upward mobility, you need to form a rebel group, then make statements like this. You are called for a negotiation, and you give your demands, and that's why in the previous experiences we were having 25-year-old major generals. That is unthinkable. Like
25-year-old
you need to be 18 years to begin, and then certain number of years in cadet, and for you to come out as a lieutenant. But you find a 24-year-old general, not because they came through a military college, but just because they became a rebel, they negotiated their way, and then they were awarded with that. So this is the one causing the problem. Recently, the salary of our military has now increased. Actually, the civil servant, the salaries have increased by 400%. So there is no question about the salary increment. Okay, the terms and conditions will still be improved. Like there is nowhere, even America, that you have perfect pay and working conditions, but it is something that is improved over time. So the baseline is not about the salary, but it's people who feel like for them to get a ministerial post or a military rank, they just need to cause such things so that they are awarded for it.
Okay, that is pretty much something very internal to South Sudan, and I believe the government in Juba is in control over that. Let me return to Uganda. Has there been any strategic engagement, especially when such rumors begin to emerge? Has there been some strategic engagement, for example, talks with especially the business community here? Because we do export a lot of goods into South Sudan. We also do receive some goods from South Sudan. And any slight thing that could disturb that pattern should be dealt with pretty much. Are we engaging?
We are always in touch. The Uganda business community has their representative in Juba and across major towns of South Sudan, and the same South Sudanese have their business contacts here. Yeah. So this thing has never been a major issue of concern. I think it is probably to the media houses and people who don't know about the history of South Sudan. But this thing, there was never an attack, or this group doesn't exist, and there is no even planning from the information we have. So basically, this somebody took opportunity of social media and tried to spread the rumor, which is really very dangerous because people who have no understanding, they will think this is very true and is going to cause economic shock to our business, and that's why we are taking this seriously.
Talking of economic shocks, the region is grappling with high inflationary pressures, and South Sudan has just been, or rather still into the process of getting into the mainstream East African community dispensation. With regard to what you're rolling out to the region, if I were to ask the question, what is in it for South Sudan right now? Are the other countries cooperating in terms of the various protocols that you're supposed to become part of as a mainstream member?
Yeah, we are part and parcel of the regional economic community of East Africa.
Excuse me.
It is on that basis that we operate. It doesn't have to be other people deciding which protocol or not they should apply. We are operating on the same level, and we are all partners. Recently, we also want to acknowledge the government and people of Uganda. South Sudanese students who have been in learning institutions across Uganda were being charged international student visa fee, which which has been scrapped, and thanks to the government and people of Uganda for that. And we are doing the same for South Sudanese, for Ugandan nationals who will be coming to South Sudan. They will also get the same treatment. But I've also been making it very clear to the Ugandans listening out there, this is just the fee that was being charged, but the students continue to pay their fee to university. So it's not about the university fee, but it is the visa fee that's no longer there. So that people
they still have to pay.
Yeah,
the
so the people
fee.
people don't say these people are now studying for free. No, they are not.
Okay.
Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay, that is a good clarification on that. So we effectively have to understand, from your point of view, this is social media news gerrymandering, and absolutely the attack on Nimule, as reported by some of the outlets, is not as it's being brought onto page. All right, with regard to the situation across the region, I would like to relate now to the DRC. And it's a question perhaps that shouldn't be mainstream, but it's one that we cannot run away from. The Democratic Republic of Congo presents both opportunities and challenges for the region. Now, Uganda has, over time, been engaging in that particular region, but for the last 2 years, there has been a rollback after Kenya came in to lead the force that is within there. But South Sudan plays a critical role in this, and it ought to be seen to act and be at the forefront. I do not know whether it's a case of a lukewarm foreign policy or a cautious approach to regional politics. Which is which?
Look, South Sudan, we believe we are part and parcel of this community, and that's why. And of course, again, with the Congo, we have a border of over 700 kilometers.
Yeah, that's right.
And what affects Congo also indirectly affects South Sudan because of that big porous border. So what is happening now, through the East Africa Regional Force, South Sudan contributed a contingent. We have some of our troops now in Goma, and others on the South Sudanese side of the border waiting for permission to go in there to help stabilize that part of our community. And Congo is one of the largest markets in East Africa, about 100 million people. Is a market that we cannot allow to just falter. We have to stand in solidarity with each other.
You said how many troops are standing by?
We have already some troops in Goma and others on our side in Western Equatoria, waiting for approval from the DRC government to join the rest of the forces.
Okay. All right. Ambassador Simon Joach Deng, many thanks for the clarification. There was concern, and it was very valid indeed, given the nature of the political and security situation on the borders of Uganda and South Sudan. Any last words before we wrap this up?
I just want to conclude by thanking the viewers, people of Uganda, the government of Uganda. And basically, I would like to say South Sudan and Uganda, we have a strategic security. And basically what that means is, like, apart from peaceful borders and peaceful coexistence among the communities, the roads, we need them to be safe, and so that the business thrive. Those who were old enough to remember about 17, 18 years ago when the Lord Resistance Army was active in northern Uganda and parts of West Nile region, the economy of Uganda wasn't where it is today. So it shows peace in Uganda, peace in South Sudan. It means prosperity for all of us. May God bless you all.
All right, thank you very much, and that will do it. We shall transition into our other discussions around about now. It's fast approaching the top of the hour of 8 o'clock. You are watching Morning at NTV. We're glad for your company. Do stay with us if you can. Replenish that cup of coffee, and we shall continue hereafter.
You're watching Morning at NTV.